So welcome everybody, whether you're here with us live or watching the recording. I'm here today to do a bit of a demo on how to cook Kitchari and talk a little bit about Ayurvedic nutrition. So it is a massive topic and we could talk about it all day, like it's a whole certificate, it's a whole set of, like it's a whole thing. But today specifically what I wanted to talk about is we're going to go through and cook Kitchari. Every day Kitchari is what I'm going to cook. So this is the recipe that I follow for mostly. I cook this once a week, once a fortnight, and I have that on quite a regular basis. And I'll run through what I would do differently if I was also doing it for a hardcore cleanse as well. So there's sort of two, there's the everyday Kitchari and then there's the cleanse Kitchari. And then you can sort of mix them up and whatnot. But before we get started, I'd like to just close down the eyes and just take a moment to come into this space. Just take a few breaths in through the nose. And just like to say, thank you for coming today. I'd also like to acknowledge the traditional custodians of this land, the Awabakal people, where I live, work and play. You might like to do the same. I'd also like to acknowledge the golden thread of teachers that have come past, present and future, in particular my teachers in Ayurveda and my lineage in Ayurveda. Because without these teachers sitting at their feet, all of this becomes just information. We have so much information available online these days. And I really just like to anchor in and show respect and appreciation for those little bits and pieces that you can't pick up by reading a recipe online. In particular for today's session, which is about cooking, Kitchari, and a little bit about Ayurvedic nutrition. And then when you're ready, come back and we'll get started. Thank you so much. Now, if my dogs bark, please excuse them. They bark at everything that goes past, scooters, all the things, and we're on a main road, so a lot happens on our street. Okay, so let's get stuck into it. So first of all, as I said, we are going to be cooking everyday Kitchari. So I've got my pot set up on my stove. So first of all, I'd like to just talk through a few points on cooking the Ayurveda way. So cooking as close to nature and as close to the earth as possible. I mean, ideally, I love it when we go camping because we get to camp outdoors on a campfire. Like we've set a fire up, we've got a big cast iron oven, big cast iron appliances like fry pan and skillet and things, and it's really great. So my Tawari, who is the lineage of my teachers for Ayurveda, talks a lot about cooking on the fire, and in her book she literally got out in New York City in one of the parks and started cooking. Her father was cooking for her on an open fire. Now that's not it's not really feasible in today's life unless you are out camping, or we do have a backyard fire, but I don't tend to cook on it very often. But I do prefer gas. So I cook at home on gas. I find that it is, it's as close to fire in the house as what we're going to get, which I think is really beautiful. And, electric and the induction, are fine. I know with induction cooking, I prefer not to use an induction stove because it does project EMFs. Which is something that I'm always constantly trying to limit in my home. So that's just something to think about. I like to use cast iron and a high quality stainless steel where possible, because they're going to leach as less toxins into our food as possible. Things like Teflon based, if you look throughout, the internet and the studies, Teflon is not great. There's lots of new fandangle non-stick things. But I think when you're cooking, if you can master the art of cooking non-stick without a non-stick fry pan or a non-stick pot, then you're a long way. You're actually cooking. I think it's best to reduce as many toxins as possible. With this Kitchari recipe, I'm using brown rice and red lentils, red split lentils, and you can see them here. I've just soaked them this morning in a little bit of filtered water. And I've also rinsed them. So I rinse them first. I've got one of these sieves, and I pop the rice and the lentils in there, and then I just run cold filtered water over them and rinse them until the water runs clear. So you're getting all that debris and dust and everything off them. And then I'll soak them, and I'm just going to rinse them one more time, and then I'll give them one more rinse before I put them into the saucepan. I'll just give them a little rinse there, and that water's running quite clear. So that's what I like to do. So I'm going to go over now to the to what's it called? The saucepan. I forgot what it was called. And I have got so I like to use ghee in my Kitchari. Now I'm going to come back again. This is a bit weird. I'm not used to this setup, back and forth, back and forth. So I use a pure ghee. So ghee is like the nectar of Ayurveda. It's a beautiful thing to cook with. It's really great. It helps us to oil our joints and our bodies and our cells. It's really lovely. So it's a clarified butter. If you are a vegan, you can definitely use coconut oil as well. And that's going to be really nice in your Kitchari. Now, if you are cooking Kitchari for a full hardcore detox, you might want to leave out any oil, but I'm doing an everyday Kitchari today, so I'm going to use ghee. I really find that ghee is great. Now, always look for a pure ghee, grass-fed cows that have been well looked after, because our food transports energy. Everything is energy, and what we're putting into our bodies is so important, and where that comes from. So whether it comes from a cow that has been treated not so great in a farm, we know that there are farms out there, the industrialized farming revolution, where the animals aren't treated well. But if you can find a beautiful product that comes from cows that are happy and healthy and well looked after, that's going to be the best. So I like to choose a ghee that is usually I buy my ghee from a health food store or from the Indian supermarket. This particular one I got from our local Indian supermarket, a grass-fed cow from New Zealand, from a reputable brand. So beautiful New Zealand farm has looked after these cows. There's lots of others in Australia that you can get as well. You can also make your own ghee. Now that's another lesson. You can make your own ghee if you can find some beautiful grass-fed organic butter, and you can make your own ghee at home. If you've got a Thermomix, you can do it so easily in the Thermi, and I actually would normally do it in the Thermomix, but I've been finding it hard to get unsalted butter at the supermarket and anywhere. So I've been finding it really hard to get unsalted butter. So to make the ghee, it's unsalted butter, and then it's heated and clarified down, and all the solids are removed from it, and you're just left with the beautiful clarified ghee. So I'm going to pop a teaspoon, about a teaspoon, you see that there, of ghee into my pot, turning it on. And I'm just going to let that heat up before I put the lentils in. So the next thing I'm going to do is pop in, I don't know if you can see, here my little spice bowl. So in this spice mix, I've got my autumn mix. So this is the autumn spice mix from Everyday Ayurveda Cookbook by Kate O'Donnell. I love this book. It's very loved, worn and used. Get a lot of my everyday recipes from this one. It's really fantastic. So I've got in the spice mix here, I think it's coriander seeds, fennel, cumin seeds, ginger, turmeric, and that's the ginger. I think it might be cardamom. I think I've got a ground cardamom as well, I forget. So what I'm going to do is just take a few seeds and pop them in the pestle and mortar, and I'm just going to break those up. I just do that's about half a teaspoon, this little spoon. And then you can see that, just going to break them up a little bit. And then they smell so good. So the beautiful thing about this spice box is having your spices in here, it lets them sort of be like married together, and you open it, it smells incredible, and the spices are sort of mingling and working and dancing together before you even get them in the pestle mortar to start to put them in the fry pan. Now again, this is an everyday kitchari, so I'm adding spices. If I was doing this for a detox, a full detox, I probably wouldn't be putting any spices. I might put a little bit of turmeric or fennel to help with inflammation and digestion, but I definitely wouldn't be putting in all of this. Now, kitchari is a mono food. So when we're looking at the Ayurvedic eating and lifestyle, it's a lot about less is more. So not having too many different foods, combinations and things. You want to have probably a bit of turmeric in there. You want to have as less food as possible, and that helps the tummy to digest things and helps the body to process the foods better. So we call that a mono diet, which is literally like lentils and beans, grains and that sort of thing. So I'm just going to just heat them up a little bit and just ensure they're just aromatic. You don't want to burn them. And then I'm going to pop in my lentils. And as, what do they go? It's around there like that. Sorry about that. So as we get in here, I'm just stirring around to coat the lentils and coat the brown rice with the ghee and the spices. So just getting it nice and coated. This really helps to add a little bit of flavour. Sometimes people say they cook kitchari and it's not, they cook kitchari and it just tastes really, really bland. But I find by stirring through the ghee, the spices, and caramelizing a little bit before you add the water, it gives it a little bit of an extra flavour. It really does sort of give it that little bit more flavour. Now, lentils and rice are a marriage. I'm just going to get my notes. Lentils and rice are they're a holy marriage, and I'm stirring this around, in every culture in the world, we have lentil and rice dishes generally. So it's really nice to look back through our ancestral line, our own ancestral line, and see what meals were cooked with the lentil and rice, because it is a whole protein, which I think is really great. And that's why we can literally live off kitchari. I'm just going to add some water in now. So I'm adding the water and I'm just going to cover it just a little bit. You can see there. I'll probably add a little bit more water as it starts to cook down. So just stir that through. So as I was saying, the holy grain and lentil is, some of the most sacred foods on earth, and every ancestry line will have dishes that involve rice and lentil, the rice and the bean. So, like for example, in Europe we might have beautiful lentil and rice pies and all sorts of things. So having a look through and even asking your own family what they made with lentils and rice, like your grandparents, like looking back through old cookbooks and things like that, you'll probably find that we have that in our ancestral line as well. So I'm using a red split lentil here. I'm just going to let that come to the boil. Come back over here. I'm using a red split lentil, an Australian lentil. You can also use mung beans. You can also use chana dal, which is a split chickpea. I like the split red lentil because it cooks quite quickly. It's the mung bean tends to take a lot longer to cook. So that's why I like the red. I like the taste of it as well. I do like the split mung bean because it's a little bit nuttier. And if I'm doing a cleanse, so if I'm doing a 3 to 5 day cleanse, I'll generally mix it up. It's probably not the rules to mix it up. You're meant to keep really the same, but we get a little bit bored. So I might do one day, I might do the red split. The next day I might do the mung bean, and I might just sort of alternate it, or I might do the first couple of days red and then the last day the mung. So that is it. So it's a whole protein. So you can basically, it gives our bodies everything that we need, just the lentils and the rice. And that's why it's so beautiful for detoxing and to give our digestive system a little break. It has, because it is the mono and it's so simple, it allows our digestive system to rest and really digest. That's why it's important that we soak the rice and the lentils first. You can also use aged basmati rice. I like the brown rice because it's just, again, when I'm doing my everyday Kitchari, I like the brown rice because it's a little bit tastier and it's a little bit nuttier. If, again, I was doing the hardcore cleanse, I'd probably use the aged basmati rice because it does have better digestive properties. If you've got any questions, please feel free to drop them in the chat or raise your hand as well, and I'll keep an eye on that. Now, the next is I'm going to add some vegetables at this point. So I'm going to add some carrots because carrots take that a little bit longer to cook. So I'm going to add carrots here. Once it comes to the boil, you can just see it there. It's not quite there yet. Yeah, not quite there yet. So once that comes to the boil, I'm going to add some carrots, and then I'll let that cook for a little bit, and then I'll add some broccoli. And then at the very end, I'm going to add some baby spinach. Again, if I was doing a full detox, I would not add all the things. I would just literally do the beans and the rice. Has anyone got any questions so far? No? Okay. So what we talk about in Ayurveda and Ayurveda cooking is agni. So when I'm talking about digestion, I'm talking about building our fire and building our agni. So building that digestive fire. That's what's going to help to break down the food and to help our body to actually absorb the nutrients and get what it needs. So for example, I've had a couple of weeks of school holidays. So we've been away camping, we've been traveling, off day trips into the city. We've been eating out a lot. I've been, drinking the odd glass of wine here and there, cheese and bickies while we're camping. So I can feel that my digestive fire is not firing really 100% at the moment. Like I've noticed that, I'm not eliminating as regularly as I should be. I'm not, I don't have as much energy as I would normally have. I'm feeling a little bit flat. So I know that now, so this is actually perfect timing for me because I can now go for the rest of the weekend. I'm going to actually eat just Kitchari for a couple of days, this everyday Kitchari. I'm not going to do a full cleanse. I'm just going to eat this for the next couple of days. So the other thing that is really important with Ayurveda as well is that we're using produce that is as fresh as possible. In an ideal world, we're growing our own fruit and veg. We're picking it straight from the garden and cooking it. So as close as that. If we can't do that, the best option is to be buying your fruit and veg every couple of days. So it's nice and fresh. I grow some of our vegetables. I don't really grow as many as I would love to, but I grow our greens and herbs, and I grow pumpkins and all the things that are quite easy and robust to grow in a backyard garden, I grow. And then everything else I usually get from a fruit and veg. I get like a seasonal fruit and veg box. So eating seasonally and with the rhythms of nature is really important with Ayurveda as well. So you wouldn't, so throughout the winter months, we're looking to coming into really grounding, warming food. So we want to be eating lots of root vegetables. Leafy greens are always a big tick. And then depending on your dosha, you'll add and subtract different fruits and vegetables in your diet. We've got, so the three key things there are eating it as fresh as possible, in season, and then just looking at your dosha and where you're sitting in that moment with your digestive fire. I'm just going to pop a bit on that so it boils up a little bit quicker. So there's sort of, I guess, the three key things that I would recommend that you look at. And then the other thing is adding different, so you might want to add, that's what I was going to say, the mixes. So then each season we have a different spice mix that we can cook with. So There's an autumn, spring, winter, and summer spice mix. And what I do at the beginning of each season is I pop them in my little spice box. Now, I got this spice box from our local Indian supermarket, and I just love it so much. It's just awesome. It's so easy when you're cooking and doing things, just a boom, 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 and it's done. So every season I will change that up. Now, you can also make this spice mix up and do it and put it in a jar. So what you can do is, if you've got a Thermomix, you can pop all your spices. You can make about a cup's worth of spice mix, pop them in the Thermomix, dry roast them, and then blitz them. And then you've got your own beautiful autumn, spring, summer, winter spice mix that's made nice and fresh. You don't want to be making it for months and months, because the spices do go off. They become less potent, and you want to have them as fresh as possible. So that's a really nice thing that you can do as well. And then just keep them in a glass jar in a dark area. I've got a drawer in my kitchen, so I've got a spice drawer where I keep all my spices so they're not in the sunlight. So that's something you can do. And you'll find, and I'm going to pop the spice mixes in the workbook as well. So the Ayurveda Flourish workbook will have a copy of all of the spices in there for you, and a little bit about that. Then the other thing as well is we're looking at different food combinations. So I'll be putting a one-pager in the workbook as well, in our handbook, about the different food combinations. So looking at how the digestion and the digestive enzymes break things down in our tummy. So sometimes we can add, for example, fruit and yogurt is a big one. Like, we all have grown up eating fruit and yogurt together, whereas Ayurveda says no to fruit and yogurt. It says no to dairy and fruit together, because what can happen is, when they're combined in the tummy, quite simply, they can cause bloating and help to dampen the digestive fire. So fruit is always best to eat alone. So I will have a nectarine or a piece of rock melon or something like that on its own. So if you can do that. When I give the kids food, so if I give them a snack, I'll cut up an apple and give them an apple. I won't give them cheese and crackers and all the different things at once. And then I'll let that sort of settle and digest a little bit, and then they'll have another snack. I mean, kids are difficult to feed the Ayurveda way, because they just are constantly grazing. They constantly want food. There goes my dog up on the lounge. Oh my goodness. Frankie, off the lounge. The little dog's in his bed, and he's just gone, oh, I'm going to get up on the lounge. So anyway, yeah, Lulu, off Frankie's bed. Jeez, it's not worse than having kids. So fruit is one thing so children are a little bit difficult to feed the Ayurveda way, but they generally most children are pretty healthy. They haven't been through all the things that we've been through, the antibiotics, the medicines, the stress, the anxiety, all the things that can disrupt our gut health. And how our tummies feel. So kids are pretty robust. Their Agni fire, their digestive fire, is actually quite strong. It's only when you start to notice other symptoms in kids that you might want to start to tweak things. But my kids eat pretty much anything. Milk should be taken alone as well. Or you can add milk with things that are sweet, like grains, honey, sugar, like a brown coconut sugar, like, for example, in a porridge. So if you're cooking a porridge for breakfast, you can definitely have milk, and always have that little bit of sweetness with it to sort of balance it out. You can also add spices to milk. So when we're talking about milk, it's important to note that we're looking at the most cleanest organic milk possible, because what happens with milk is in the farms, the cows are fed a lot of hormones to produce the milk, which then we ingest those hormones and residual amounts of those hormones into our body, which can throw out our menstrual cycles. It can throw out kids' growth hormones. It can throw a lot out. So if you can get a raw milk would be ideal, straight from the farmer. If you've got someone you know locally that you can get a raw milk from. I noticed Coles is starting to sell raw milk. It's not cheap. It's like $7 a litre, which is quite outrageous. But if you're not drinking a lot of milk, then that is the best option. if you're drinking like our family drinks, we've got kids and we do drink milk, but I always find a locally sourced organic milk and a non-homogenized. So one that's still got the fats in it, like the most purest form possible is the best. You can add beautiful spices. You can add your seasonal spice mix to it, or you can add a chai spice mix as well. So that's really nice. You can even add your essential oils like pink pepper, black pepper, cinnamon. So you can actually make a beautiful spiced milk drink with those as well. Milk has a particularly hard time digesting and working with bananas. So we all have a banana smoothie. It can be one of the worst food combinations that you can have. So that's just something to note as well. It's a pretty hard time. Avoid eating dairy with any fish. So any dairy products with fish is a bit of a no-go. And eggs don't mix well with fruit, milk, and yogurt. So just have eggs with, some lean meats or with some greens or mushrooms, your veggies, that sort of thing. Try not to have it with milk. I mean, I know sometimes people make scrambled eggs with cream or milk. It's not the best combination. Honey. So here's another point to think about is honey. I'm going to check this quickly. That's just starting to bubble now and cook. Before I keep talking about honey, I'm going to add my carrot now because carrot takes that little bit longer to cook. I chop it up nice and small. Again, it's all about digestion and how we're going to digest the food. So I like it to be small so it cooks really well, the carrot. The carrot adds a little bit of sweetness as well, which is really nice. I'm going to pop it back on here. So honey is another thing that should never be cooked or boiled. So I used to make muffins for the kids and use honey as a sweetener. And according to Ayurveda, that's a no. So what I'll do now, instead of cooking the porridge, for example, we have porridge most mornings, an oat porridge, and my kids like it to be a little bit sweeter. So I will drizzle the honey on top after the oats are cooked. Whereas I used to put the honey in and cook the honey with the oats. So rather than boiling the honey and heating it, it's good. You can just trickle a little bit of honey on top, or you can pop a little bit of honey in your chai after it's boiled and heated, if that makes sense. Because honey can get very sticky in the cells, and it can cause poor digestion and really sort of dampen the agni. It's also good that if you're having honey, to mix it with a little bit of ghee, to mix it with a fat, can really help to smooth the honey out in your body. So basically, I put in our porridge a bit of ghee, I cook it with ghee, and then I put the honey on afterwards. And sometimes I'll add dates to our porridge as well for a little bit of a sweetener. And if you cook, put the little dates in, they are very good for, if you're feeling tired and depleted, I would highly recommend porridge for breakfast with a little bit of ghee, a little bit of a sweetener. You can use maple syrup or honey, and then a couple of dates. And that's really going to build your ojas, which is our energy, our nectar. It helps to build the ojas in the body. So nightshades is another one that we don't want to mix with dairy, again, melon or cucumber. So your things like eggplants, tomatoes and potatoes are best to sort of eat without those other things. Some other agni boosting tips I've got for you are, we all know about dawn water. We've talked about that before in the program. So your ginger and lemon or lime juice, and I've been adding a little bit of cinnamon. I've got these lovely, this lovely cinnamon bark that I got from the Indian supermarket. And I just, oh my goodness, I just love the smell. It smells so good. So I've been breaking a little bit of the bark off and popping that in my dawn water to help to balance blood sugar levels and to help with cravings. And I'm actually still sipping my dawn water now. I haven't actually finished it. It's been a busy morning. So I pop those, the dawn water goes in my thermos. I've got ginger, slices of ginger, a squeeze of lemon, and a bit of cinnamon bark. So that's going to really help with your digestion, helps with weight loss, helps with energy and hydration. So we drink our dawn water first thing in the morning as we wake up before we do anything else. Avoid processed and packaged foods like alcohol, caffeine, sugar, all the basics, you know. Ayurveda says no to anything packaged and processed, basically. Eating our main meal at lunch, so when our digestive fire is at its peak, is when the sun is at its highest. So again, working with the rhythms of nature, waking with the sun, taking it slow, rising. Lunchtime, our body's ready for its main meal. It's going to be able to digest and process. And then in the evening, eating a light meal of vegetables and a lean protein, but just something light. So think about that being your lunchtime meal rather than your lunchtime meal. Now, if you don't have, if you're working and you work in out of the home and you don't have the luxury of making your lunch fresh every day, that's the other thing, is making our food fresh and eating it fresh. What you can do is, what's really great, and I'll often do this when I do a cleanse, is I'll cook my meal in the morning and then I'll pop it in the thermos so it stays nice and hot. And I send the kids off to school with noodles and all different things with broth and whatnot in their little thermoses as well. So they're getting a nice hot lunch and they're getting a main meal at lunchtime. And it's cooked fresh. We're not reheating it, because when we reheat food in Ayurveda, Ayurveda says no to reheating food because it the food nutrients are a bit more depleted once they've been cooked and then reheated. You're sort of depleting the benefits of the food, and B, it can like having the fats and the ghee solidify again is not great for our digestion and our cells. Cooking with the spices, as we talked about, the spices really help with digestion. Spices like ginger, fennel, black pepper, cayenne pepper, mint, using rock salt or, like salt in its most purest form possible, nutmeg, cardamom, dill, turmeric, cumin, coriander, ajwain seeds are all really great for the digestion. Try to avoid snacking. That's hard, because we do like to have a bit of a snack, but I've noticed that if I'm eating a decent breakfast and then I'm having my lunch at around midday, I'm not needing that morning snack, and I'm actually not needing an afternoon snack because I'm having a really good lunch. That makes sense. So I don't feel like I need that snack. And then we have an early-ish dinner, depending on the day. You can have, if you're having digestive issues and you are finding it hard to digest your food, eating a slice of ginger with a little bit of salt on it as a digestive enzyme can work really well. It can really help to break down the foods. So you can do that before you eat, before you have your meal. Just do that. And it's like a natural Ayurvedic digestive enzyme. It's really quite cool. Only eat until you're 3/4 full. No ice and ice things. So ice will just put your fire out. It'll instantly put your digestive system out. The same with drinking whilst you're eating. So you wouldn't be gulping copious amounts of water. You take sips with water, and try and do it before, at least half an hour or so before your meal, and then after your meal, because you just think it's like putting water on a fire. It just goes out. Throw out or soaking. I talked about that, soaking the legumes. You can also drizzle on your meals a little bit of olive oil or ghee, and that's going to help the body to absorb the nutrients and emulsify in the system. You can soak the grains and legumes. That helps with digestion. Throw away your table salt, replace it with rock or Himalayan salt. Drink digestive herbal teas. Tulsi do a lovely digestive tea. You can even just make a tea out of fennel seeds, and that will be really nice and great for the digestion. Triphala powder can really help to cleanse the digestive tract. Simple Kitchari cleansers. Eat foods that are warm and cooked well. Try and eliminate too many, like a lot of raw foods out of your diet. Like lots of big salads and things aren't great for our digestive system. If it's a salad with baby spinach and roasted pumpkin and some nuts and seeds and maybe a little bit of goat's feta or something like that, beautiful. But a full raw salad can be a bit too hard on our digestive system. And ban all low fat, like low fat, zero sugar. We want to have the fats in our body. It helps our body keep oiled and happy and lubricated and things working well and our digestive system working really well. It's going to check on this Kitchari. That's getting hot. Let's have a little look here. So that's coming along. Nicely there. You can see it does take a little while. So now that I've had that cooking for a few minutes or so, I'm going to add the, oh, I thought it turned off then. I'm going to add the broccoli to it. And now I'm just going to throw it out. Does anyone have any questions so far about any of those food combinations or anything? Does anyone cook Kitchari on a regular basis? Yeah, you do, Kay? Do you do it a similar way, or is this very different to how you do it? I'd love to know your experience cooking it.
Yeah, it's very similar. So if very similar as well, if I'm doing a cleanse, it'll just be the brown rice and lentils, and that's it. But the thing is, I cook that so often that I'm so used to the bland taste that even now when I do variations, I never ever, well, I very rarely do I ever cook with garlic and onion anyway. That's just definitely not there anymore. But so my variation is the lentils and the brown rice, and then I add carrots to it, and then I also add, I'm a weed forager. So I add like dandelion leaves, mallow, amaranth. Those are the greens that I add in there. Just when I'm out on my daily walk, I just pick them. And so that's pretty much what those are the greens that I put in there. So because when you're making a pot, it's usually like a big pot, and I would make it on a Monday morning, so then it's fresh for the lunch. And then I always because then I'm eating that all week, and then I do reheat. But I mean, I reheat on the stove as well, so I wouldn't. But I mean, it's just one of those. I'm not going to. I know that I'm not going to cook a small batch every day.
Yeah.
So
yeah, and that's the thing, and it's about working it to the best if you can in everyday life, and that's what I love about that. And you made a good point there. You definitely wouldn't reheat with a microwave, because a microwave will just kill anything that the food has got. Like, we don't even own a microwave at our house. It blew up. My husband had one when I met him, and then when we got married, and it was just here, and I had never had one. And then it blew up, and I was like, I'm not replacing that. So now he's had to learn how to reheat all the foods. It's like, well, you can reheat on the oven or the stove. Yeah. It's not that hard.
Yeah.
So we don't have a microwave. So microwaves emit EMFs and all sorts of things, and it kills anything that you put in the microwave. You're basically killing the food. You're killing the life force, like the life force of the food. And that's where earlier I said that's why cooking as fresh as possible. And then you mentioned another thing there, weeds as well. So weeds are amazing. We get so many diverse nutrients from weeds, and I've literally, there's weeds that I've got in my garden that I let grow. And nasturtiums grow like a weed, and they're another really great green that you can put in.
I have nasturtiums in my garden that I use in pretty much everything, because I also, the little seeds after the flower, I dry the flowers, and then also the little seeds, I make a version of capers, those, and so the stems of the nasturtiums are very similar to like a spring oniony taste. So the nasturtium leaves will always go in there as well. So I
grabbed this nasturtium flower for a garnish, but I forgot to bring the leaves because I was running late because of footy. But yeah, that's right. So these are a nasturtium, they're the flower, and the leaf is a big round, like a lily pad type leaf, and they add a little bit of a peppery, oniony flavour. And the other point that you've mentioned, that you've brought up as well, which I forgot to mention earlier, is we don't use generally garlic and onion cooking it the Ayurvedic way, because it's rajasic. So it can actually, it's, you know, it just amplifies, what's the word I'm looking for? Okay, yeah, it's just a negative in the body, basically. It's a energy, it saps the energy, and it's a little bit toxic kind of for the body.
It builds the armor, probably. Yeah,
it builds the armor. That's the word I was looking for. Builds the armor, which is the toxins, which we look at, which is what we're trying to eliminate all the time from our body, is the toxins, the ama, and then the garlic and onion can build it up. So you can have, I know there are a lot of Ayurvedic cooks that even I follow, and I've got a few cookbooks that they do use onion and garlic. A lot of them use shallots, like a spring onion over it, like the green. So if you're using the green of the shallots, and I've got a friend who has, you know, terrible IBS, and when I cook for her, I'll use chives and shallots, and that's what I use a lot of at home as well. So I've got an abundance growing in my garden, and I use that if the recipe calls for onion. The other thing is hing. So which I need to get out to help with digestion. We can use a little bit of hing, a little pinch of that in the lentils as well, and that's a bit of a pungent flavor, and that can work quite nicely. I'm just going to check this. It's boiling away now. There we go. Woo! Smells really good. So you can see it's sort of boiling away, and you want to get it to be like a nice sort of porridgey consistency. I'm going to throw the broccoli in. And depending on your dosha, broccoli might not be the best. And depending on, you know, your body, throw in vegetables that you know work well with your digestive system. Broccoli, I'm fine with broccoli. Too much eggplant and potato are no good for my tummy. But I find anything green works well for me. Add a little bit more water. So
Edwina, what was that little thing was that a spice or something that you just showed before?
Oh, the hing, asafoetida. Hing asafoetida.
Oh, asafoetida, yes. Okay.
Yeah, sorry.
Did you add that in as well?
I didn't. I forgot to add it, to be honest. So I'm going to put a little pinch in now. And I just put a pinch, and it can help. It helps to give it a bit of flavour, as well as it's mainly it mainly aids digestion.
Okay. I like the tip of the slice of ginger with some salt before. I was thinking, oh, that's a good thing to remember before Christmas dinner.
Yes, yeah.
I actually had a question. I'm actually going to Dimix after this, and so I'll probably will see if they've got the Everyday Ayurveda. In that Everyday Ayurveda, does it have the different seasonal spice mixes?
Yes.
Oh, perfect.
Yeah.
Yes.
So this book is great. It's basically broken up into a few sections. So you've got an introductory to Ayurveda, and she's got a lot of information in here, which is really great. And she breaks things down for modern life as well. Like, you've got the really hard and fast Ayurvedic rules, which are really difficult to follow, to be honest. But she talks a lot about, Ayurvedic cooking. She's got this, you know, the tastes in there, the 6 tastes of our world, the astringent, sweet, sour, salty, bitter, and pungent.
And is she Australian?
She's English.
Okay, because what I struggle with is, because I've got a couple of my Tawari's books as well, is I have to convert the seasons to Australia, and then I think, oh, am I doing that the right? And I find, for some reason, I find that so confusing.
Gets a bit confusing, yeah. Well,
I have to say, so when she talks, so for example, this English lady, if she talks about spring, do I jump to the autumn chapter, for example?
Yeah, so she's got this so she's got it set up in everyday recipes. So things that you can cook every day for all doshas throughout the year. So that's really great. So it's got your basics like different soups and porridges and puddings, chia pudding and things like that. And then she's got, so for example, we're in autumn. So I just go to the fall, because they call it fall. So I go to the fall recipes and I have a look at that. And then I just literally...
But isn't oh yeah, because it doesn't really matter which part of the world you're in. You just, if we're in autumn now, we just follow the autumn recipes.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I don't know why I found it confusing, but yeah.
Oh,
but I love the
idea.
Yeah, I love the idea of having the spice mixes ready, because I just go, oh, it's autumn. And I just use that for everything that I cook.
Yeah, exactly. Yep,
yeah,
exactly. And then
did you find your spice box? Was that from an Indian supermarket, did you say?
Yep, from an Indian supermarket. Yeah, so we've got
out for it, yeah.
End, and I got it out there. So you'll find one somewhere.
Yeah.
Melbourne. And so she's also got a spice mix, a salt mix as well. So she does the spices and the salt. So for example, for autumn, the salt is sage, rosemary, thyme, sea salt and black pepper. And then she grinds that up, and then that's the salt that you can use.
I've got one almost exactly the same, except I don't have sage in there.
Yeah. And then
I also have, sorry, because you talked about the nasturtiums, I also have the salt with the dried nasturtium flowers.
Oh, lovely.
Yeah, and that just when you sprinkle that on things, so like it just looks nice as well.
Yeah, I'm going to do that. That's a great idea. And then she's also got a chutney for each season that you can make fresh.
Nice.
And add to your food, because it's really nice. You can add flavour and nutrients and help digestion by making your chutneys. So the autumn one is cranberry clove chutney.
Does she have a sauerkraut in there?
Pardon?
Does she have a sauerkraut in there?
No. So that's another interesting topic. So Ayurveda basically says no to sauerkraut in general. And the reason that we think that is the case is because when you look at Indian eating and you look at how the Indians eat, it's very much, it's got a lot of different bacterias and all sorts of things happening, and the digestive thing happening. So you shouldn't technically need a sauerkraut to support gut health. If you were to do it, it would be something that you would eat as a medicinal thing. So when you really need to support gut health and build up your gut biome, it wouldn't necessarily be an everyday thing. So there's a little bit of conflicting with Ayurveda and the Ayurveda philosophy and wisdom when it comes to things like the gut health. I mean, the sauerkrauts and the ferments and kombucha. So kombucha, because you can actually topple your dosha, and then it can have an adverse effect by adding too much of the fermented foods into your food.
Yeah.
If that makes sense. So she doesn't have a sauerkraut recipe. But yeah, I mean, I used to make sauerkraut all the time, and I used to make and I've stopped making it because of that whole, it's like, is it really great for my tummy or not?
Yeah.
The other thing as well with Ayurveda, which is interesting in the trends at the moment, is this ice bath thing. So how everyone's in the ice bath, and it's actually really not great for Vata. Where we're living in this Vata world, and then we're throwing ourselves into an ice bucket and we're getting all like, it's cold again, and Vata is being toppled as well, which I think is really interesting.
I have no interest in an ice bath.
No, neither do I.
Give me a hot spring any day.
Yeah, I know. We went recently, when we went camping, we went to out to Moree. And they've got the hot springs out there, from the bore, and we were like in the hot spring going, oh, this beats an ice bath any day. Okay, so the Kitchari is looking good. at this point, you can see, I don't know if you can see that it's looking, the grains are starting to look a little bit more like, less like grains and more like porridge. It's sort of starting to come together. A little bit longer. So at this point, I'm going to put a little bit of coconut cream in. So it's another way that you can add some fats to the kitchari, which we need the fats and the oils. It also makes it that little bit creamier and gives a little bit of a taste. But again, if I was doing a detox, I wouldn't be adding coconut cream because it just would be too much. So again, the idea is that we're using, we're staying very mono and giving our digestive system a really good break when we're doing that detox. But yeah, as you said, Kay, as well, it's interesting. The more you eat kitchari, the more flavoursome it becomes, because you notice, you get used to that sort of blandness and that bland flavour, and your body responds really well to it. Kim, did you end up doing your detox?
No.
No, you haven't done it yet.
No, I haven't got around to doing any cooking.
Yeah.
It'll come.
Yeah. Kim came and had a one-on-one kitchari cooking training with me in my kitchen a couple of weeks ago. So you haven't got there yet. Nah, fair enough.
No, I actually got really bad heartburn.
Oh, from kitchari?
Well, I don't know whether it's that or I'm having some after tea as well, like herbal teas. So I don't know if it's the herbal tea or whether it was the kitchari, but
so
because I do have
a sign of a pitta imbalance in the digestive system. It's the
well, I've got I've been diagnosed with eosinophilic esophagitis, so that's inflammation of in the esophagus, and I just I guess it's put just a bit of a question mark for me. I would have thought it would be sort of gentle, but anyway, I'll have to try it again and see if I get the same reaction.
Which lentils did you use?
Red lentils.
Maybe try the mung bean. Maybe try a split mung bean. It might be a little bit cooler for you. And maybe use did you put any lemon juice on it?
No. And well, that's the other thing. I wonder, like, I get quite a dry throat from doing my Dawn water. Do you think that's natural or
a dry throat?
Yeah.
That could be the lemon juice. Might be a little bit acidic. Have you got lemon essential oil, doTERRA lemon essential oil?
No, I haven't got the lemon essential oil. But
because you can use that, and it's a little bit less. There's no acidity in the essential oil, but in the juice there's the acidity. So what you can also do is just have the rind from the lemon instead of the lemon juice.
Yes.
Just use the rind in your Dawn water, because that's the essential oil, and that's what you'll get. It'll be a little bit more bitter. It won't be as sort of sweeter as the lemon juice. It's going to be a little bit more bitter. So maybe swap it out and try that, or use lime juice. Lime juice is cooler and sweeter than lemon.
Okay. Yeah, I'll give that a go.
Yeah, give that a go.
Thanks, lovely.
Okay. Let's have a look here. Woo. All right. And I also see how it's getting a little bit stuck on the bottom. I do like to let it get a little bit caramelized and stuck. I'm going to turn that down now. So a really interesting thing when you're adding coconut milk or coconut cream when you're cooking is you don't want to boil your coconut milk or cream, because it can curdle it and it can make it go a little bit funky. So I like to make sure that I put my coconut cream in at the very end on a low heat, so it doesn't boil, that it just sort of heats through. So I'll generally add some greens. I'm using baby spinach because I've got to use it up. And otherwise I would have probably got greens from the garden, but we bought this for a recipe and I'm going to use it. So I'll chop the greens so they just sort of wilt a little bit. I like lots of greens. And I think I can hear my family home. So we'll pop I don't put a lot in, I just put like a little bit of a drizzle. Just stir that through. And the other thing as well you can do now at this point, just before you're serving, is you can pop a pinch of salt. Just hang on a sec. Guys, I'm still on my call, so please be quiet. Thank you. And then I pop a little bit of salt. You don't want to pop the salt in too early because it can go bitter. If you let the salt boil and cook for too long, you want it just as to taste and to season. So salt's always best to go in last or as you're serving it. And then I'm going to pop the greens in. My family are home for footy. Okay.
Just in time for a nice bowl of Kitchari.
Yes. Nice warm bowl of Kitchari after footy. I'm just on my call, so. Yeah. I'm nearly done. That was actually good timing. I'm just about done. So now I'm going to grab a bowl. And quack, and my ladle. Turn that off now. And they say in Ayurveda, which is hard because I'm a vegan, I like eating, that we should be eating just the size of our palms, like that. That's what we should be eating as a main meal. And I'm going to pop some little marigolds onto garnish. Love the marigolds. Marigolds add a nice little bit of flavour as well, and they're edible. And I can't remember what these ones are called, but these are really cute in the garden too, and they're little pink ones, and they're edible. And then I put a little squeeze of lemon juice. So I'm going to show you over here, actually. See that? There we go. A little bit of a squeeze of lemon juice. And that's it. Voila.
That looks so lovely.
Oh, thank you.
I've never squeezed the lemon over it. I'm going to try that because that I imagine would be really nice.
Yeah, it's lovely. It gives it a little bit of a lemony flavour, and it omits the need for salt as well. If you're used to, because coming into a Kitchari cleanse or eating Kitchari, like the way that we eat is so flavoursome. Like we put all the flavours, the garlics, the chili, the salt, the pepper, all the things. So adding that little bit of lemon can really help when you're first starting to have it. And you want to start removing the salt, especially you can use the lemon when you're doing a full cleanse. I often put like the lemon and lime as well. You can use lime as well. That's also quite nice. But again, the lime's that little bit sweeter. So that's that. And then I'll just enjoy that while they've actually brought takeaway home. They've got a Portos. Here I am cooking Kitchari, talking about nutrition. They're sitting there eating chicken burgers. Oh gosh, this is life, isn't it? Oh, and then my nasturtium. I like to put my little nasturtium on top. Look at that.
Mm. Oh my goodness, amazing.
Yeah. So yes, does anyone have any other questions? No?
No questions, but thanks very much for that. I definitely adding the flowers and the lemon juice. I'm definitely going to try that.
Yeah, amp up your weeds.
Yeah, yeah. And also like if I had, because I have a pretty bland diet anyway. So when people come over, I'm always like, and I am aware that I shouldn't adjust to other people because this is my house, so they do what I do.
Yeah.
But just to make it a little bit more interesting, I think the flowers would add a good touch.
Yeah, I think so. The flowers and then your the seasonal salts. I think that's a really nice way to make the meal pretty, and then they can add as much salt as they like if they're not used to bland food.
Exactly.
So
yeah, and
a nasturtium salt and a rosemary salt and a
yeah, and I also make my own flatbread, so that's they can have that. Yeah, that looks nice. I wish I was there. I would be having a bowl.
Well, there's plenty here. Kim's not too far away. You could scoot round and get a bowl.
Wow, that'd be lovely.
But yeah, can you just try that, changing it up from lime to lemon for your dawn water, and then for the kitchari, maybe try the split green lentil.
Yeah, just tweak it a
Oh,
bit.
not lentil, sorry, the mung bean. Just tweak it a little bit. You could even switch to the basmati rice as well if you were using brown rice.
No, I think I use basmati. I always use basmati, so
yeah. So use that, and that's just going to help.
Sorry,
yeah.
You mentioned aged basmati. I've never heard of that before. Where is that, from the supermarket, or where is that from?
Yeah, so you can get, so there's basmati, which is aged, which is basmati and aged rice. Yeah, you can get you can get different lengths of aging, and the aging of the rice is what helps keep the GI low. And
I had no idea.
Digestion.
So the longer that it's aged, the longer the GI,
the better it is for you.
The better, yeah. And does it would it say it on the packet, or?
Yeah, what? I think you go to the supermarket and just the normal brands will just say basmati rice, but I've noticed that they've got different aged and different basmati rice at the Indian supermarkets.
I'll look out for it because I normally just have brown rice, but I might try it with aged.
And it smells when you smell basmati rice compared to normal rice, you can smell it smells old. It's got that sort of different smell to it. But yeah, I mean, I always try and get an organic rice because they do use a lot of pesticides in rice. It's one of the things that we know they highly pesticides. Especially in India. So they use a lot. There's a lot of pesticides in India because they've got to feed so many people and produce so much. So it tends to be the case in India. But yeah, I think that's all I had. Let me just check my notes. We talked about leftovers and reheating. It's pretty easy to do this just for yourself, but then it comes out a little bit of a challenge when you're cooking for a family. So, just on that, eating your biggest meal at lunchtime, a few little things that I've noticed, what we will try and do sometimes, and we're not great at it by any means, but weekends we'll try and have a big lunch, we might do a Sunday lunch or something like that, and then have a lighter dinner. Personally, I've started to try and eat less at dinner. I'll cook pretty much the same for the family, like bolognese or whatever it is that we're cooking, which is sort of very Australian and Western. I'll do my soups or kitchari for lunch, and then for dinner I'll just minimize what I eat for dinner because it's hard with family life to sort of eat. And this is for the people watching the recording as well that I know have got kids. You've got footy training, you've got music, all the things that sort of run into the evenings. Another tip is to through the winter it's a little bit easier to give the kids a bowl of soup. and some nice bread or something of an afternoon when they get home from school, so they're not eating a massive meal, so you're not eating a massive meal at night. I talked about the thermos as well, and sending, like, I'll send the kids to school with eggy noodles, like 2-minute noodles for lunch. So I'll cook noodles in like a chicken broth or a veggie broth, and then add an egg and cook that. So they're getting like a nice protein rich, wholesome lunch. It's yummy. Yeah, I love it. So just sort of tweaking how you can get that bigger meal at the 12 p.m. mark and a lighter meal of the evening for your family. So that's about, and cooking. And I didn't mention in the beginning, like cooking and kitchen sadhana, like we talk about making our kitchen a very sacred and spiritual sort of area. So I'll often, which my husband usually hates, but I'll put incense on when I'm cooking, and I have that little moment where I'm blessing the food as I'm cooking it. They don't really know that I'm doing it, but I'm just doing it in my head sort of thing. And I'm always feeding my family first. So that's a really nice sacred thing to do, as well as actually feed someone else first, feed an animal first. So if you've got pets, if you're living on your own, like I know you do, Kay, like feed your pets first. And bless the food as you're doing it. And, it doesn't have to be a big song and dance like Hail Marys and All Grace and all of that sort of thing, but it can just be a really nice, sacred moment that you have. And using that mindfulness in the kitchen. So like instead of rushing through your meals, chopping mindfully, again, making things look beautiful. That's, really sacred and really nice. One more book recommendation I've got as well is this one, Healthy, Happy, and Sexy, by you probably know of her, Katie Silcox. So she does the she's got a big Ayurveda school, and she's got some great tips. There's lots of food and nutrition tips in this one as well. So she's really this is a really good one, and I got a lot of that, which I was talking about, the happy belly and belly loving food combinations. I got a lot of those food combinations and tips from this book.
And that one's Ayurveda as well?
Yes, yeah. So Katie Silcox runs a 12-month long Ayurvedic practitioner certification. So she's very good. She's American, and you'll find her on Instagram and whatnot. And she's been around for a long time, like Sharon Gannon has given her, a recommendation in the book, and there's some really big people in Ayurveda and yoga that support that she's, in that realm. So it's a really good one as well.
I'm looking forward to actually getting that book, because I've got this Sharon Gannon book, this one, Simple Recipes.
Oh, I haven't got that one. Yep.
This I've had for about, I think, maybe 15 years, and it's just dog-eared, and I love it. So when I get this one, Everyday Ayurveda, that'll be the second Ayurveda cookbook. So I'm looking forward to that. But Sharon's book is fantastic.
Yeah, I've got that one on my list. Another really good person to follow if you're a meat eater as well, because a lot of these are very vegetarian focused. But if you've got a family that eat meat, which, what everybody, my family eat meat. I've just recently become vegetarian, come back to being a vegetarian after many years of being one and then not being one, and then I've come back to it. But for my family, I find there's a cookbook, Beautiful Food. Let me just quickly get it. What's her name? She's Australian as well, which is really great. Here it is. This one. So Jodie Vasello. So she's a great one to follow on Instagram as well, on social media. So she's Australian. She lives down the South Coast. And this is a great one. And this might be a good one if you've got friends coming to visit that are meat eaters and whatnot, or if you're a family that eat meat. So she's got beautiful recipes in here, and it's all about eating with the seasons, foods that ground, foods that cool, that sort of thing. And she's an Ayurvedic practitioner.
What is that one called?
Beautiful Food.
Thank you.
So she's got some lovely salad options in there, which aren't too raw. She's got lovely desserts. She's got, like poached chicken in ginger. She's got some really nice We've had some great recipes in here for the kids. She does a chicken donburi, which is basically rice, egg, and chicken cooked in a soy, like a tamari, that the kids really love. So just some different alternatives to the real Ayurvedic traditional food, like, and some more sort of Aussie style stuff. You know, she's got muffin recipe in there and nut butters, and yeah, love it. That one's
I'm
really
very, very hungry now.
I know, I'm going to let you go. I'm hungry too. I'm sitting here, I can smell it.
Yum.
It smells really good and it looks so pretty. I better get a photo for Instagram.
Yeah.
Oh, all right, ladies, thank you so much for coming, and I will be popping it all up into the portal over the next 24 hours. So have a beautiful weekend, and hopefully I'll see you tomorrow. Might see you tomorrow, Kim. Kay's going to be presenting tomorrow in the Marigold Yoga and Ayurveda membership.
Yeah, I hope to make that.
Beautiful. All right, ladies.
Thanks, ladies.
Thanks, Lena. Hi, Kay.
Meet you
Nice
later.
to see
Bye.
you.
You too. Bye.